But I didn't know a year later we'd be in control of Awana. And I mean, it's the area believers, but I mean, Austinburg would be the sponsor of it. I didn't know that. I didn't know until 3 weeks and a half before Awana, after we completed the white room. I never forget what you said to me, baby. I'm like, we could do it down in Austinburg. She's like, baby, it's EG or nothing. But it's not done. She's like, well, figure it out. And Edward, Robin, and others came in and they worked and they worked and they worked, worked and they worked and they worked, and we opened on time. And by the way, there are many men here that work behind the scenes. Kev, so many others work behind the scenes to make things happen. You never see what they do. Kind of like the bucket there. Some of you saw it, some of you didn't. You never see what they do. But they keep things going. Sometimes they're down here at midnight. Sometimes they happen to be down here at Kev, or hey, the water's frozen. I bet that's what they wanted to hear. Why don't you fix it, Pastor? Why don't you fix the stinking water? You know the cool thing is realizing that life, I told this morning in Sunday school, I said I used to want to give my pearls of wisdom to younger pastors. The only thing I want to tell younger pastors now is just seek the Lord and ask Him for what He wants out of your life. Because that's all you need to do. I have life experience, but what does that matter? It doesn't really matter. It doesn't. Because the Lord might do something totally different with you that I think is dumb. The Lord blesses you, and it's wonderful. It's awesome. And God does mighty things. Brother or sister, what a God we have. And I got 4 kids. And one of them lives with me, one of them lives nearby, one of them lives in Maryland, one of them lives in Clark Summit, about to move down to West Virginia. But you know what? I mean, Leland was Leland's job is difficult sometimes and puts him in interesting situations, and I can't do anything about that, And there's scary people in this world, and you don't have to live in a bad area to find them. Last thing, and I close. I probably told you this story before. It's worth hearing again. I had a pretty teacher, Miss Merchant. Maybe all teachers are pretty to their students, right? I don't know. Younger lady. I didn't have a crush on her, but she was a nice lady. Sweet, gracious. Didn't realize she had a disease that made her body like an old person, even though she looked really young. So she couldn't fight you off, or she couldn't run away from you. Like a 60, 70, 80-year-old woman, and I don't know, she's 29 or 30-year-old woman. Bottom line was, I'm not going to get gross, there was a scary man who eventually went to prison, rightfully so, for doing scary things to other people. And this scary man was in her vicinity. And she found out about it. And I guess, I was just a kid when I heard this story. I believe her. I don't know all the details perfectly. There's things as though I'm like, well, why does that make sense? Anyway, somebody got to ask the man why he didn't hurt her first before he hurt some other poor person really badly. But this white teacher was told, I couldn't do it because there was this huge man next to you. He was huge. I wasn't going to mess with that guy. There was nobody with her that day. It was an angel. There were no huge guy next to her that day. The Lord led her one of His angels. And maybe he even looked at that con, and he's like, don't you even think about it. Not touching that girl. Well, you know what? I know missionary stories where bad things did happen to good Christian people. Horrible, 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 horrible things. I got one more story. Please forgive me. A Chinese girl who loved Jesus so much, and she was a concert pianist. Ronnie, if you know Michiko and her children, you know they play very well, and you understand that culture prizes that. This girl could play really well. You know what they did because she loved Jesus? They broke her fingers so she could never play the piano ever again. Can you imagine? You're a young lady who's devoted her life to playing this piano, and some men take your hands and they break them. And this is communist China, so I'm sure there's not going to be any surgery for you because you're a rotten, no good Christian girl. And there you go. That's it for you. I want to tell you something. If the Lord has something that big of you, I know there's good things. Because it's a tapestry. And we look at the tapestry and say, Lord, why did you take that person's kid and not this person? Why did you give this person cancer and let this person live till they're 100? Why did you give this person dementia and this person sharp as a tack at 95? I don't know the answer to any of those questions. I just know I have a God who has a fairy tale in mind for you. Let's pray. Father, Lord, it's easy to get cynical about life, about your house, about your ministries. I've been cynical about Christian camping ministries as a teenage and college, I believe, as an older counselor. Lord, I get cynical about ministry sometimes when I'm not with you, and I'm operating in my own wisdom. And I'm like, what's the point of any of this? Well, there's no point to any of this unless you're in it. And Lord, sometimes I look at my life and I'm like, what's the point of this or that or the other thing? Well, there's no point to this or that or the other thing without you. And sometimes I'm like, why can't I have this? Why can't I have that? And it's because you love me. And you got a fairy tale, but there are dark parts in fairy tales. There are dark things that happen in fairy tales too. But the fairy tales usually always say good things happen to people who basically follow God's law. Because there's a God. And that's something I knew in my head. But you had to remind me of as a teenage boy. Is, hey, nobody can hurt you unless I want them to hurt you. And Lord, there's things I've learned as an adult. There is no power that can do anything against me, no matter how powerful they are, unless you let them. There's nothing that can touch me on this planet. I'm an insignificant human being in a very small area, but that doesn't matter. Everybody else here probably feels the same way, in one way or another. And Lord, I got sin problems. Oh, do I got sin problems? Boy, you reminded me this week how arrogant I can be. How much my little bit of pride gets me in trouble sometimes. You give me an inch and I take a mile sometimes, Lord. I start thinking too much of myself. Well, Lord, I just pray that this church family protect every person here, every precious boy and girl, mom and dad, aunt, uncle, grandma, grandpa. Lord, help us all to trust you. Give us great wisdom in the days ahead. In Jesus' name, amen. All right.